How do I turn this around? There we go. Well, hello, everyone. This is a last-minute Instagram Live. I'm out on a walk, getting my sunshine, kind of, although it's kind of stormy out. Still get some photons through the clouds, though. And the reason that I wanted to do this Instagram Live is because I set out a goal to walk through the neighborhood and keep my eyes open for anyone that looked like they might need a hand, anyone doing yard work, any old ladies out in their garden who look like they need help pulling weeds. And it's freaking completely empty out here. There's nobody out. So I thought, because my goal was to go out and help some people, and so there's nobody to help. So I thought, you know what? Why don't I hop on Instagram and help some people there? So I just figured I'd open it up for a little free-for-all Q&A for you guys. If you have some questions for me, don't ask me about cryptocurrency, politics, Hollywood, or probably I would also be a little bit cautious asking me anything about how to cut hair. But aside from that, fire away if you guys have some questions for me, and I'm happy to reply. I spit out my little breath trainer to do this for you guys. So all right, well, let's jump in. Is that a mankini that I'm wearing? No, I think I just answered that question. All right, is it good to wake up at 4:30 a.m.? That's a great question. I just released a little thought about this, an article about it on Twitter and on Facebook, where I publish a lot of research studies. And increasingly, I think that a lot of it is circadian rhythm based, and that there are certainly people from a genetic standpoint who can get by on less sleep. There are also people who are willing to sacrifice some potential elements of immunity or health, muscle repair and recovery, or cognition and memory in exchange for the productivity to be had from getting up early. But that all being said, the people who I know who are most successful at getting up early to crush the day when everything else is quiet and the kids are in bed and you've got your you time are doing two things. They're doing two things. And for me, when I get up super early, these are the two things that make that doable from a health standpoint. A, they are meditating. And we know that meditation will give you a lot of the benefits that you can get from sleep in a shorter period of time. We know this if you look at yoga nidra. We know this if you look at theta and delta wave production of experienced meditators. We even know that the use of certain devices can assist with this to kind of lull you into deeper brainwave states. I actually have a podcast coming out in a couple weeks about that. But ultimately, there's some form of meditation in the morning, right? It's not just getting up to crush CrossFit. And then B, most of them have some form of sensory deprivation that occurs sometime in the afternoon or the evening. For some people who are on the fringe, that's a float tank or a hyperbaric chamber. For others, it's a nap or a second meditation session. But I would say don't feel guilty about getting up very early, 3:30, 4:30 a.m. to crush the day, as long as you understand that it's probably going to be beneficial to you to start the day with a lot of you work spiritually, meditation, prayer, gratitude, journaling, etc. And then also consider some form of sensory depth. Typically, I talk about this a little bit in Boundless. The ideal time for that is about 7 to 9 hours after your first awakening. And so that's how I'd attack the getting up early thing. I've personally been experimenting with that quite a bit lately, getting up early for a little bit more focused time in the morning, but it's more to meditate than to crush the day. Whoa, there's a lot of questions here. I replied to one question. Now there's like 8 billion. Oh geez, you guys. Now I'm gonna feel bad because I never like to just go through questions super fast without providing good value. So I'm just gonna go to a question that looks interesting. What's the biggest challenge living in Oregon at this time? I don't know. I don't live in Oregon. I live in Washington. When is the best time of day to do red light therapy? I love this question. So I think that if we look at this from an ancestral standpoint, it's sunrise and sunset, right? So getting up in the morning, using your red light therapy then, if you can't get out in the sunrise, or if you're waking after sunrise, and then again in the evening. Now what I do is I'm typically not getting up and watching the sunrise, even though I think that's beneficial. I also live out in the forest where I got to go on a hike to go see the sunrise, which isn't bad. It is what it is. So for me, I'm usually actually using red light therapy in my office in the morning to kind of simulate what the sunrise might be giving me, particularly the near infrared and red light spectrum. And then in the evening, I just have the red incandescent light bulbs in my bedroom. So when I go to my bedroom in the evening and I'm reading and getting ready for bed, love making, you name it, it's kind of like I'm in sunset then. And if I go down to my office to work at night, I actually don't use the red light panels, because the ones I have are the Juve panels, and it's such an intense amount of red light. The power on those is so high that excess use of them could create excess reactive oxygen species, kind of like over-exercising. And so I have a backup light that I use in my office at night, and as things would be, I'm blanking on the name of it, but it's essentially like a desk lamp with a red incandescent bulb plugged into it. And so that's what I use to light my office in the evening when I go into my office in the evening. Alternatively, you could of course use just a regular soft lighting system and wear blue light blockers that are tinted red or orange. And so I think when we look at this just from a pure ancestral circadian rhythmicity standpoint, it would be in the morning and in the evening. So let's go with another question. What's around my neck? I answered that question. It's called a relaxator, by the way, a relaxator. Okay. Let's see. I'm going through questions. There are some that say, like, are you a humanoid? And I'm trying to skip the questions that might not be beneficial for people. Best place to... Oh, would I do a part 2 with Bill Andrews? Yeah, that was an interesting interview. So that was the cat from Sierra Sciences that I interviewed. And we were talking about telomere length and the more accurate ways to measure your telomere length, with particularly the ones that came out of that discussion, the top 3 being SpectraCell, Renew Diagnostics, and LifeLength. We also did not, in that discussion, talk about these newer ways to measure aging, like methylation clocks, and some of Horvath's research on that. And so I would love to get him back on and hear his thoughts on that. And, I wound up after that interview, because sometimes I'll put my money where my mouth is and try out the products from some people I interviewed. So for 3 months, I tried his, their very expensive telomerase activating product, TAM818 and TA65. One's like $800, one is like $600. And I tested my telomeres before and after. I didn't notice anything that notable. I'll tell you the things that I see to be best for telomere length. And this sounds dumb, but meditation, breathwork, and yoga are way up there. I'm not kidding you. And I like that because those are all free. There is something to be said for astragalus as well. And so I'm not opposed to the use of that. I get a really good astragalus from Kauai. Kauai Organic Pharmacy does a really good astragalus. And then the other thing is if you look at Russian research, there's something called the Kavincin protocol, which involves a peptide called epitalon. Of anything I've done on my telomeres, that made the biggest difference. I did it's basically like, it depends on the protocol you use, either a 10 or a 20-day injection protocol of epitalon, which is a peptide, just subcutaneously in your abdominal area. And when I did a repeat SpectraCell analysis after that one, that's what dropped it could have been a lot of other things I was doing at the time, but that was the main different thing that I did, and it dropped the biological age down to 9. So yeah, I would love to get Bill Andrews on and hear about that. My problem, you guys, is there's so many great people out there to interview. When I get repeat guests on, it's like that's one less guest who's some new person who I want to pick the brain of. And there are certainly people who I really love and just get on repeatedly, like Dr. Matt Cook, or who's another one I've done a repeat of recently. Yeah, Darren, the guy I interviewed this morning, I had him on before. But yeah, it's you'd be surprised. I get about 10 emails a day from people wanting to be on the podcast, plus all the books I'm reading and, interviews I'm reviewing. There's no shortage of podcast guests, but I'm always listening to you guys too, as well, in terms of who you want to hear interviewed. But my real pleasure, honestly, is interviewing like diamonds in the rough, people who may not be, making the podcast round, so to speak. People who have written books that I've read that I think. So I'll give you guys some insider baseball. So, books get sent from publishers out to podcasters with a sheet, a single page 8.5 by 11 sheet that comes with the book that says, here's the questions to ask the author, and here's the synopsis of the book. And, I talk to podcasters 9 times out of 10, they barely read the book and they just review that material and ask the canned questions. I am not lying to you guys. I read every book cover to cover for any podcast guest I'm going to get on, and I circle and underline all the little rabbit holes that I want to dive into. And so because of that, there's always a lot of authors that I want to get on, but I'm very careful to select only authors who have written books that I really enjoyed and that I've thoroughly reviewed. And that's one of my favorite parts about my job, is because that kind of sort of means I get paid to read books. And as a total bookworm, that's amazing for me. So yeah, that's kind of my approach. But yeah, it's I kind of a rabbit hole. But I'd love to get Bill Andrews back on. Okay, let's see. I think I want to go. I'm just feeling like there's a lot of kind of like, very specific questions here about like, specific injuries or supplements or nutrients. I want to go with some of the bigger picture questions here, or things I haven't talked about before, because a lot of this stuff I have talked about before on podcasts. You provide so much value. How do you keep up with content, editing, and posting? So, I have a really, really strict routine, almost like an OCD routine. I mean, my days are like Groundhog Day. And it's very seldom, and some of this, might not be good, but it's very seldom that I just like stop my routine to watch a movie or to like, take a break in the middle of the day to go do coffee or really do anything that breaks up the daily routine. And because of that, I can be a content machine and also soak up a lot of education and knowledge and research articles. But literally from the time I get up in the morning until I go to bed at night, Monday through Friday, everything is mapped out to the T, from the gratitude journaling, breath work, mobility, sauna, research papers, reviews, bathroom, walk, and then every single appointment and piece of work with no breaks in between, no notifications, no text messages, no phone calls, lunch, nap, emails, and phone calls for another 2 hours, kid time, workout time, family dinner, guitar, read book, or have sex, go to bed. And I mean, literally, my days are like Groundhog Day, Monday through Friday. It's very seldom. And I go to places like LA, New York, and like my phone blows up. My IG blows up and people are like, oh, come do this, come check this out, come out to this meeting. I'm like, how the hell do people get things done in these communities? Like, that's part of me living out here in Spokane is I kind of am a little bit isolated and I just get shit done. So I really have a pretty strict routine, and like if you were to come just like shadow me for a few weeks, you would see that like nearly every day for me is like Groundhog Day. But that honestly really, really keeps me focused. So that's how I do it. And I'm also, like I mentioned at the beginning of this live, I'm pretty ignorant on a lot of stuff. Like I don't watch movies. I don't know how to log into Netflix. On Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, I don't know how to, I know how, but I don't. Like when people say they're scrolling through feeds, I don't know what that means. Like all I do is post stuff and answer questions. I don't look at anybody else's feeds. So I'm not like scrolling on anything. So yeah, so I certainly limit any time that I might spend consuming versus either creating or gathering knowledge. And that's really the majority of my life, aside from my kids, my family, music, God, and, some outdoorsy stuff. So, C. Stancy said, where did you get all the medical knowledge? Do you read textbooks? So when I was 16, I started college and I wanted to be a doctor. So I I really, like, I was really a geek growing up. I was homeschooled. And so I had a very disproportionate view of what, like how to educate oneself. I just thought you like found shit and you learned it until you had learned it. So for 5 years, I took anywhere from 26 to 30 credits a semester and did all the pre-med coursework, shadowed a lot of doctors, spent a lot of time in hospitals, in operating wards. Wound up after that, after getting a master's degree in biomechanics and physiology, doing a short stint in surgical sales where I got pretty disillusioned with the modern medical system. And at that point, kind of had to choose, like, well, do I want to go on to like naturopathic school and become like a naturopathic physician, which I think that would have been a great choice. I was also really keen on fitness and physiology, and wound up partnering with a local sports medicine physician, and we opened up like a series of gyms and studios and health clinics that included physicians, chiropractic docs, physical therapists, biomechanists, physiologists, massage therapists. And so I did that for several years and just kind of never got back on track to go to medical school or to pursue any type of medical career after that. But for the past 20 years, I've probably read no fewer than a dozen research articles per day and typically read a book a day. And so I would say that my continuing education since college has served me just as well as what I studied in college. So that's kind of where I get some of the knowledge. But yeah, as far as my ability to be able to interpret studies and speak the language, so to speak, a lot of that was just my collegiate education and some of my undergrad and graduate work at University of Idaho. Okay, lots of thumbs up, happy faces, hitting the weights. Let's see. Okay. Scrolling down. Let's see. I'm trying to keep up with the questions, you guys. I think I've got time for just a few more here. And then dinner with the family. Ooh, am I religious? Do I want to open that can of worms? Should I open that can of worms? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Oh, I'll see what you guys have to say. Am I religious? The room is silent. Yes, I'm hardcore religious. I'm hardcore religious than I even talk about on podcasts, to be honest with you. Like, I talk to God all day long. I pray when things go wrong. I believe in magic. I believe in miracles. I would be the laughingstock of the scientific community if I were to say, yeah, let's pray over that cancer to help it heal faster. Let's implement a daily practice of coming to God to help to decrease stress or cortisol levels or help you to sleep better. When you look at books like The Biology of Belief or any of Joe Dispenza's writings or or David Hawkins or even the Bible, we know there's a pretty distinct tie between your biology and your spirituality. But I live my entire life basically with the belief that that I'm deep down inside I'm actually a pretty shitty guy, capable of a lot of evil, and I cannot be good. I cannot just like be a good person on my own, and that's not a defeatist form of thinking. Instead, I believe that that Jesus Christ was actually a God who came down to earth, who was sacrificed, and because of that bore our sins. And so all I need to do is basically listen to God, obey his commandments, love other people as much as possible, and then cast any burdens, cast any shame, cast any guilt, cast any sin upon Jesus. And I believe that in living in that way, that I'll go on to eternal bliss. And yeah, I mean, like, it's sometimes difficult for me in the scientific and the medical community, I won't lie, to say things like that, because that's all the unseen. That's nothing provable. You can't do research studies on that. But I can tell you that the hope and the clarity and the peace and the love and the joy that I derive from loving God and from believing in in Jesus and believing that God became man, and there was a great miracle thousands of years ago that gave us all a pathway to eternal bliss. I absolutely couldn't think of living any other way, and it's my saving grace every single day. And my only regret is that I'm not more spiritually strong. I think we're all on a path to enlightenment, and I'm still on my own path to enlightenment. But every day I'm just trying to be better and be more like who I think was the greatest man who ever lived, and that's Jesus. So that should answer your question, I think, pretty well. That I am religious, and I absolutely love God, love to sing hymns, love the Bible. Big fan. Okay, let's see. Man, you guys have a lot of questions. How much time do I have left here? Let me see. Okay. All right, let's see. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start to walk down through the forest to show you guys my house. Let's see. Going on Joe Rogan again. I actually haven't talked to Joe in a few months. I need to ping him. He sometimes tends to go underground for a while, and we haven't connected in a little bit. So I'll probably connect with him once this whole coronavirus thing passes over, and hopefully get a chance to hook up down there in LA. I think that would be fun. That's always a big show, and very can be very stressful afterwards when all the trolls come out. Okay, let's see. Other questions. Political party. See, I'm picking the questions that aren't the stuff that I usually talk about on podcasts. You guys, I am full on backwoods Idaho redneck libertarian capitalist. So that's my political leaning for what it's worth. I think that the government is set up to protect our borders, to pass laws, and to enforce those laws without stepping over the boundaries of our constitutional rights. And so I think you would probably classify me as like a libertarian constitutionalist. So you can imagine I'm a little stressed out during these times, following all the rules. But I've decided that rather than me being one of those kooky conspiracy theorists, that I can serve people better, just helping you guys stay healthy and helping you love your families and helping you find good things to read and good ways to stay sane and good ways to stay healthy during these times. I find a lot of the confusion and the frustration and the anger and the fear and the shame around a lot of these conspiracy theories going around right now, regardless of whether or not they're true, is something that tends to create a lot of negative energy. And I haven't been called to really participate in that much at all. However, politically, a lot of what's going on does go against the grain of what I personally believe. But I think that for me to act on that in a very blatant manner, obviously my platform would disappear and I wouldn't be able to help you guys out very much at all. So I would rather be able to help people and be politically a little bit more safe than to stick my neck out there and lose my platforms and just not be able to write books for you guys and do articles and interview amazing people. So there are others out there who are doing that. I've noted that most of them tend to be single, or their children are out of the house, or they maybe don't have a family to worry about back home. Whereas I love my wife and my precious little boys and my community so much that I don't want at this point in my life to create a scenario where I'm kind of like getting rid of a lot of that because I'm sticking my neck out there politically, especially in the times that we're in right now. That's the political thing. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I separate politics and business quite a bit. All right, let's see. Other questions. And then I'm going to, I think I'm going to turn some things over here, and I'm going to show you guys a little bit of inside baseball because I got about maybe 5-10 minutes left. So this is the walk that I go on every day when I'm making phone calls and talking with folks. That's an old farm road. So what I do, that's Margie's house. So I trespass and I cut across Margie's property and I walk through her yard right here. And that's my only way to get up to a walking road that's got a cell phone signal where I can talk to people. So what I do is I walk across this field here, and it's gorgeous. In the winter, this is all just covered in snow, and there's deer tracks and rabbit tracks, and this edge of the forest, this is where you walk into Narnia. So at the edge of that forest is where you pass into Greenfield territory. Okay, so as we walk towards this forest, down in the forest is where the Greenfields live. So hopefully I didn't just show you guys enough addresses to where creepy stalkers out there can find my home. I just realized that may have been a mistake. Creepy stalkers, you did not see that. Anyways, though, so you walk through the forest, and also creepy stalkers. Hopefully you caught on that political statement. There's also a shit ton of guns and other dangerous things at the Greenfield house. So should you decide to go and try out this walk for yourself, just take heed. Like I said, I'm a constitutionalist, libertarian, Idaho backwoods redneck with a lot of weapons. So, anyways, that being said, so this is the forest, and as you walk down through this path, this is where you start to pass into the magical oasis that is the Greenfield compound. That is where I used to hunt for several years, and then I wound up buying this land and building a home on it. And so as you come down to the forest, you can see the Greenfield home down there. And actually, this is part of my obstacle course. You can see those are hay bales where I throw spears at. And this is actually a steep hill that you run up as part of the obstacle course. I'm going to hold my phone up here so you guys can see as I walk through. So you come down this path. Coming down. And there's a lot of deer that live down through here. You might even see a few running out. I saw 3 when I started this walk. And so then you come down to where the Greenfield house is. So this is our house. And it looks like my wife's home. And my big truck. A lot of you are wondering how much of a lift is on that truck from the photo I put up on Instagram. It's not that much of a lift, as you can see. And so then there's like obstacle courses built up everywhere. That's my gym, axes and logs. There's still a few that need to be chopped. If anybody chops wood, you got a job. So that's our house right there. So a little barn. And it's kind of like a barn or a farm style home. And then if you walk up this way in the backyard, that's where I've got the pool and the hot tub and a little guest house. And then down there is the barn, and down there is our big garden where we have all the raised garden beds. And then over here we got a little fire pit, and then back around the back is a little herb garden, an ice bath, some rings, and that's my office. You can see through the window in there. And so that's the Greenfield compound. It's our patio up there with some nice little hammocks and swings. So I figured you guys might like to see where I'm operating out of. Anyways, though, so I just want to hop on this live, like I mentioned, just to say hi to you guys. I get lonely just like everybody else, even though I love my family. I don't see a lot of people these days, so it's cool to get on and talk with y'all. And just remember, we're all going to get through this together. And the best thing you can do is spread as much love as you can. Be with your family. Learn. Keep your hands busy. Keep those idle hands busy. Serve others as best you can. And love God. Love other people. Know your purpose in life. Know your ikigai. Know your plan de vida. Get out of bed every morning. And create your routines. And create it all in a spirit of love. Live with peace. Live with joy. and I will keep doing the best I can on my end to help you guys out, because that's what I'm called to do every single day, is to get on these platforms, share my knowledge with you, and hopefully make a few lives just a little bit better every day. So thank you guys for watching. I love you all, and have an amazing, amazing Sunday tomorrow. All right, over and out.